You want a background? Hold on, hold on.
Well, it only matters very little.
Well, no, it matters a lot, apparently. So hold on. Let me find. I didn't like my logo because it's not sized right for this, but let's try it anyway. Hold
Everything of yours is sized right.
on. Yeah, size this. Well, I'm going back to green, big boy.
Yeah, yeah. Do your thing.
Choose
Do your
the
thing with the green.
just background and effects. Okay, tell me some stuff. I'm so screwed up. Here we go. Blur backgrounds. Okay, I'm blurred. I'll be green for this. You are a very difficult host.
I never tire of hearing that. Okay, well, that looks pretty crappy too, to be honest with you. Because you see you got the green on both sides of you, and then you've got the blur of the living room or the bedroom.
Jesus. So I redid my entire office just for you. Happy now?
Okay, so here's the thing. You're the TV pro, the creative genius, the producer, the person who does television, and you can't even set up a shot on Zoom.
Yeah, I suck. I'm clearly a talentless fraud.
So how did you get through your entire career not being able to make the shot happen?
I hired talented people.
Gotcha. So you know how to delegate, you know how to make things happen.
The first thing I asked someone when I got to the network was, so what's the secret? He said, get a good crew.
Now you're looking good. A Christmas tree.
That green thing over there looks like a
Okay,
Christmas
that's what
tree.
that is. Yeah.
That's a Christmas tree.
I will definitely create something in post to get rid of the Christmas tree.
Oh, wait, in post. Now you're Mr. Television.
Oh, yeah. I learned that just recently.
Yeah, okay.
How are you doing, David?
I'm good, actually.
Good.
I'm editing my brains out because it occurs to me I'm debuting in 3 weeks, and I probably ought to have some of these finished. So, the problem. The best editor I ever worked with once said to me, David, you never finish editing. You just run out of time.
Here you are doing your own editing.
Oh, yeah.
In the same breath as what you said previously, which was to hire good people.
I'm not bad at setting up shots, actually.
Right. So you're doing well, feeling happier now than you were maybe, let's say, 2 weeks ago?
I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. Things are good. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm getting good reaction to, your response to Nancy was good.
Okay.
And I'm getting positive feedback from people. So I'm trying to walk that fine line, all joking aside, between cleaning stuff up and overproducing it. I got offered a contract to do another book, but they wouldn't pay me enough money, so I actually passed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good go to the highest bidder.
I'm not sure there's another bidder.
Yeah. People just don't buy books anymore, do they?
No, I enjoyed doing my first book, and I made $11, but I'm not going to spend another year to make another $11.
Oh, I hear you on that one. So you're drinking coffee. I just finished my 18th cup. And
how's your life? How you doing? What's up? I watch your stuff with great interest.
Oh, good. Having a good time. I'm really enjoying speaking to some kind of fun people and smart people and stuff like that. So,
and then people like me as well.
And people like you as well. This is my entire social life.
Yeah,
so, I'm really counting on you. No
Talking
pressure.
to a schlub today. I know. I'm just bored with food, except for particularly goods. It's now either I don't give a shit or this is great. The emotional eating happiness that you could get out of just anything is not there.
Well, that's because your selection of choices are not there.
Well, I'm trying to keep up, doing my best.
Let me ask you, this is the Wegovy Ozempic
I'm on Ozempic, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So does that reduce your appetite? Does that take away your passion and desire? What is it?
It reduces your interest. And my difficulty is that because it reduces my interest in, let's sit down and have a meal, it increases my interest in anything that will snap my taste buds. So interestingly enough, the predilection is not to overeat meals, it's to snack. And yeah, there are, keto bars and shit that I can have 70 calories at a time, but
adult candy.
That's it's not really, that's not food.
Right.
So, I'm living off the main rotation of roast chicken, pork tenderloin, short ribs, pasta sauce. And that's fine. I'm looking, it's interesting. Medically, I'm looking for flavors. Like we're going to have burgers tonight. I'm going to
Yeah.
make them out of lamb instead of beef. So
Okay.
I get a different flavor. I'll throw in maybe some za'atar or something else Middle Eastern. And maybe we'll eat them in lettuce wraps as opposed to on a bun. But I
That's a great
have to
idea.
find, that's not a bad idea. I have to find, and I got tzatziki and, hummus. I can do the Middle Eastern thing. That's a combination of definable flavors with emotional memory for me because of my
Right.
time over there. So that's an interesting meal, but, just a generic old anything. Is that,
Sometimes when I'm speaking to folks who are doing the low carb thing or
yeah,
the carnivore ketovore thing, I just tell them to kind of segment their pantry and their spice shelves into various different regions. So maybe European or maybe Mediterranean or maybe, that
exactly.
kind of thing.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
when you're talking about that, it's like, bring on the za'atar, bring on the cumin, bring on, the chilies and things like that.
Yeah, I'm actually using sriracha for the first time in my life.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I'm not a real hot sauce guy, but
Hmm.
I find that to eat well now, I really need to beat the shit out of my taste buds.
Right.
In fact, things can be too hot for me now.
Right. Right.
I'm not the guy who wants to eat the wings that make you vomit. It's a guilty pleasure, but is that pleasure going to make you want to go out and buy something?
I want to get back to the Ozempic thing because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people who are watching us right now are probably pretty interested in that. Does it also reduce your passion for relationships, sex, taking a nice walk, all the
No,
things aside
no,
from food?
no. You're replacing one passion with another. I mean, you got to have some happiness in your life.
Right. But if it's reducing your appetite somehow,
Yeah,
then
and
it's
look,
working on your brain. It's not a
it's working
stomach
on your brain. It
chemical.
also is working on your digestive system. I don't know about everyone else, but you don't poop every day. Things get slowed
Right.
down.
Well, same thing happens when you're on a carnivore diet.
But when you do, it's an event.
Right. Right. Honey.
Honey, you're going to want to see this.
Right. Okay. Would you like to play a little bit of Jeopardy today? And we'll still
Sure.
get to go ahead and pitch and promote everything and anything you want.
Anything you anything
Yeah.
you want to do. That's all I can tell you.
You go to therapy?
No.
Have you
Um,
ever?
have I ever? Yes.
Yeah.
Um, although I'll tell you a funny story. I was unemployed and having a hell of a time. Couldn't get a new job. I had left NBC amidst pretty big disagreements over shit. So if I hadn't left, I might have been fired. Who the hell knows? Because as you say, I do have a strong personality. Anyway, I left NBC convinced that I was God's gift to broadcast journalism and that ABC or CBS would snap me up in a second, and no one gave a fuck. And I was getting seriously depressed. So this is such a great TV story. Do you know who Av Weston was? Av Weston was a pioneering TV news executive producer who went on to other things in the business. I never actually met him. Well, I met him once, as this story will indicate. So I have a shrink. I'm referred to a shrink. I go, I sit down. I'm having a very tough session with her. I'm crying. And she looks at me and she says, "You don't need a shrink. You need a job." Av Weston is a friend of mine. He's looking for an executive producer for Martha Stewart's show. Here's his number. Give him a call. Now, that is such a media centric city to start with. The shrink sends you to a job interview in television.
Right.
I called him up. You know what? We had a meeting. He had me watch Martha's show. Then he came back to talk to me. I gave him a blunt critique, and he said to me, "Everything you've said is absolutely correct, which is why you could never work with her."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's had a pretty decent career.
Oh, she's had a great career. She's just,
Right.
I mean, we were forced to use her. NBC had to deal with her at one point, and we were forced to use her on the premiere episode of the Weekend Today show. First of all, it was a stupid idea because we had a Hispanic anchor, and yet what Martha made, blonde Martha from her home in Connecticut, was paella. So having a WASP tell a Hispanic how to make paella was pretty offensive.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, David, if we're going to play Jeopardy today, I'm going to give you a selection of categories that you can work me on.
Oh, do that on the air.
Yeah, we're doing that. So I just want to give you the categories. We are on the air, so I'm giving you the.
Take out me beating up Spike, would you?
Oh yeah, we'll be good on that.
Okay.
Of course, the categories, because of who you are and because of my crack research staff, which
all of the categories are about being short.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Me, Simone Biles.
First category is food.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's too easy.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
The second category is cooking.
Mm-hmm.
The third category is flavor. And I know you're going through some issues right now because of the Ozempic, but yeah, third category is flavor. The fourth category is Nancy Silverton. And we can explain who she is. Would you like to go ahead and explain who Nancy Silverton is first before we go on to the next category?
Nancy is one of the great chefs in American history. She's got a Michelin-starred. She has won the following 3 awards from the James Beard Foundation. Best Chef in America. Best Pastry Chef in America. And for Campanile, a groundbreaking restaurant she owned in LA at one point. Best restaurant in America. She's incredible. She's also the first guest on my new podcast, Culinary Characters Unlocked, which drops August 27th.
Actually, it's good timing, isn't it? Because we plan on getting this on the air before that show drops of yours.
Amazing how things happen that way.
I know.
When you know the host. Let's go with food.
Okay. Next category after Nancy Silverton is society and culture.
Uh-huh.
And then the last category is a combination 70s and or 80s music.
I'm good with the 70s. I'm no good with the 80s.
Okay, that's fine. It's
either going to be food or society and culture. What the hell? Let's go society and culture.
Okay. Society and culture.
And if I don't like it, we'll switch to food.
Right. I plan on doing that anyway.
Yeah, if I suck at this, we're going to,
The first one is easy. This movement in the 1960s aimed to end racial segregation and discrimination in the United States.
Civil rights movement.
Okay, this cultural phenomenon in the 1980s was characterized by big hair, neon colors, and synth pop.
Uh-oh. 80s? You got into 80? I told you, I don't know 80s music, and now we're into synth pop. Wait, this musical movement wasn't dance movement. Disco.
Disco, right. That was earlier. That was the 70s, right?
That was when I was in Wichita, Kansas, and I had a light blue double knit leisure suit with red counter stitching and silver platform shoes.
Wow. We need some photographs of you in the leisure suit.
Oh, I wish I had them, man. I wish I had. I was on the air as a reporter at KKE television in Wichita, Kansas. When I went out for a big evening on the town, it was to a local disco that stole the name Fridays and somehow never received an injunction. And they had the disco ball, and man, I was hot stuff. Oh, by the way, I also had a white shirt with red and blue window pane, and the collar of it was outside the collar of my leisure suit. Man,
oh my gosh, you were quite the fashion model.
I was something else in Wichita, Kansas. I cannot answer this question. What was? Tell me.
The cultural phenomenon in the 1980s.
In the 80s, I'm striking out. Yeah, big. Oh wait, wasn't. Wait,
it's just 1980s pop culture.
Dallas. I don't know. I slept through the 80s.
Yes,
Wait, hold on. I moved to Europe in 85. I have an excuse.
All right. That's good. Where in Europe did you move to?
Originally London, then Frankfurt, then Budapest.
Yeah, I was in London in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
Did you like living there? I didn't.
I loved it. I was going to school. I was learning.
Different. If you go to school, you have a built-in society.
Right.
In London, I had a built-in society. It was the people I worked with at NBC, but the locals, in my mind, were kind of cold to foreigners. You'd get invited to a dinner party to be the one American to be the butt of the jokes when they beat up George Bush. But it was very hard to become personally friendly with a Brit. In my view, my experience could have been my attitude, my approach, who the hell knows. But I like to go to London and visit, but I didn't love living there.
Now
also, I was in the TV news business, and London was was a plane flight away from anything that was happening. In other words, if something
Right,
went down
right.
in Europe or the Middle East, the flights were out of Frankfurt. So I had myself transferred to Frankfurt.
Did you like it there?
I loved it, but again, my society there was still the people I worked with, although it was a smaller bureau and filled with my friends. I had the Autobahn, so I bought a used Maserati, which was very nice.
Yeah.
Now, I did not speak German, despite taking lessons and realizing it was impossible. So it was difficult to develop a whole bunch of German friends, although I developed some, even dated some. But again, I wasn't speaking German, they were speaking English. You know, we're kind of embarrassing as a culture in our lack of knowledge of languages.
You're talking a couple of moments ago, twice, you mentioned about, your circle, your friendship
Yeah.
circle, your social circle.
Mm-hmm.
How has your social circle been affected in these post-COVID days? Because mine has shrunk to like a minuscule level.
The older I get, the tighter I keep the circle because I don't want to, years ago, hey, a bunch of us are going to go do this. You want to join? Sure. I don't care. I don't want to leave my house that much for no particular special reason. And as I look around, I find I have a nice tight circle of very close friends, although most of them, many of them don't live near me. But my best friend in the world, our family met his family when we both joined a synagogue when we moved to Glen Ridge, New Jersey. And again, you meet people in affinity groups. When we moved to Minnesota, where nobody wants to meet an outsider, our circle of friends developed completely in the equestrian world because my daughter was a competitive equestrian. And those are the people we met from other places, and they became our friends. Bill and Candy are our friends way back to Glen Ridge. They now live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So we were out visiting them a little while ago, and they're going to be here in 2 weeks. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. We've made some great new friends just down the street, again through an affinity group.
Wow.
We met them when I was walking our dog, and she was walking their brand new dog. And our dogs became buddies. So we get together most afternoons around 4:30 to sit by their pool, have a drink. The dogs run around and chase each other. And they become very good friends. Post-COVID.
Little play date because of the dogs.
Play date for the dogs. And they share my interest in food, and he's interested in real estate, and my wife, a brilliant lawyer, is selling real estate these days. So, there's stuff to talk about. What's interesting is we could not be more politically different.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
They're one of those.
Do you care if I mention my political leanings?
You do your thing, man.
Okay. They're pro-Trump, or let me put it this way, they're anti-Democratic Party.
Oh, that's an interesting distinction.
It is. I think they're among the folks who didn't love Trump, didn't hate him as much as they probably should, in my view. But they just couldn't abide Biden, and now they can't abide Kamala. And it's fascinating because, look, I'm to this day an unrepentant journalist, and somehow we're able to have a friendship, even though I find them vastly uninformed or misinformed because of where they get their news. But hey, we rarely talk about politics. When we do, we have a nice, pleasant Thanksgiving dinner table fight and move on.
That's the only way to keep it together with people from opposing sides, right?
But what's also interesting is you need the ability to do that. I grew up at a typical, most of my growing up was in New England, but my parents are from New York. I lived in New York as a child and went back later in life. But we had the typical, New York Jewish dinner table conversations where you fought about politics, you fought about anything. And frankly, if you took the side I was going to take, I'd take the other side. We moved to Minnesota and found out that is not considered acceptable dinner table conversation out there.
Right, right.
So, which kind of made dinners boring. But it's interesting because it controls your affinity groups. In Glen Ridge, New Jersey, we made very good friends, and not just Bill and Candy. because of the synagogue we joined, which had a big outreach program to try to get new members to be part of the community. And it was it's the Northeast, so there were synagogues everywhere. When we moved to Minnesota, what I found was that because there are far fewer Jews, the synagogue that we went to attracted people from like an hour away, which made it very hard to develop close friendships with people because it was a schlep to get there. And it was hard for my daughter to make friends out of kids in Hebrew school for the same reason. Mm-hmm. It was just a long schlep. Then again, where we chose to move, we were looking for which synagogue to join, and we called one and wanted to talk to them about their bus pickup schedule for Hebrew school. And the guy said flatly, "There's no Jews out there. We don't go there."
It's not in a route.
Yeah, it's not on the route.
Wow. Oh, what city are you in now?
I am now in Manahawkin, New Jersey, which is just across the bay. We're on the bay. It's just across the bay from Long Beach Island, which is a very well-known vacation spot. Okay,
so how far is it from the city?
I can get to Lincoln Tunnel in an hour and a half. I can get to Philly in an hour 20. Acknowledging the fact that the accepted speed limit on the Garden State Parkway it says 65, but the troopers will give you 80. 81, you get a ticket, but you put the cruise control to 80 and it's clear sailing.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Hey, I went to the other day, my friend Bill was visiting, and they're coming back soon, but we looked up in the middle of the day, he said, "Cheesesteaks?" I said, "Absolutely." So we got in his car and went to Philly. And the best Philly sandwich isn't a cheesesteak, it's a roast pork, but cheesesteaks are good. So we went and had a cheesesteak, and then I monitored my blood sugar for the rest of the day because of that roll, but it was a good roll.
Do you wear CGM?
I do.
You do? And so what are you seeing that's affecting you more than other things?
When I was in, or pasta, when I was in Ann Arbor, we went to Zingerman's, the famous Jewish deli out there. And I'm now at a point, we should explain, it was a diabetes numbers scare and I got my numbers down. But this was when now I have some latitude in what I eat according to my doctors. But this was during the time when I was being the most careful person on earth, hadn't had a piece of bread in like 5 months.
Yeah.
And we went to Zingerman's, and they are famous because beyond their pastrami, which is world class, they have an incredible bakery. They bake their own bread, including rye bread. And I had to have a Zingerman's pastrami on rye, which, because of the bread, I rank higher than Katz's. Katz's admits they use second-rate rye for price point. And this stuff at Zingerman's was unbelievable.
It's amazing that they can complain about the price of or the cost of bread when they're charging $40 for a sandwich.
Good sandwich, though. And when I went into the restaurant, my blood sugar level was 90 something. And I had the sandwich, and within an hour, it was 156. So, which is still technically within the you're not going to die range. But yeah, you ingest pure carbohydrates and you pay for it.
Yeah, oh yeah. But do you find that most of the doctors that you're in touch with really just have no nutritional background or understanding of metabolic
Well, what's
health?
Interesting is, look, I was fighting blood sugar levels for years, and my GP was confusing at best. Eat this, don't eat that, do this, don't do that. Finally, when I spiked insanely stupid numbers, she threw her hands up and bitched me out, basically saying, "I give up. Go to an endocrinologist. You're not following my instructions."
Right.
I couldn't understand her instructions. So I went to an endocrinologist who also sent me to a nutritionist who specialized in diabetes. And he outlined a diet for me, explained what and why. She did the same, and suddenly it worked. I find, as I age, you get specialists. I have no heart problems, but I have a cardiologist because my father had heart trouble at one point, and better safe than sorry.
Oh, yeah.
My mother died of cancer. In her 40s, she had colon cancer, so I have more colonoscopies than most people.
Right.
By the same token, my endocrinologist, who controls my diabetes treatment, is wonderful. She explains things. She consults with me. We look at options. She says to me, okay, now you're at a point where you can cheat some. You want that cannoli? Have a cannoli. Have one cannoli. And don't do it every day. But
Right.
this is pragmatic nutrition care that makes sense to me.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your show that's coming up. And it's going to be you
By the way,
interviewing.
Jeopardy's over? I got 2 questions?
Oh, no, you know what? You can pick your categories. Food.
Give me
I thought
food.
you were
Give me
going
a
to go
food.
with food.
Give me a food question, then we'll talk about the podcast.
Jeez. Okay, this fruit is known.
I'll probably blow this one too.
I really wanted to test you on the food and the cooking category, so I'm
ahead.
glad you brought it up.
Go.
I thought you were shying away from this.
No, go. You know what? Pick some questions from both.
Okay. I'm just going to give them to you. You don't have to say, Matthew 100 in cooking or whatever.
Okay. 100 in cooking.
This fruit is known as the king of fruits and is famous for its noxious odor.
Noxious. Oh, the durian.
That's right. Have you ever tried it?
No, I refuse.
Okay.
One of the few things I refuse.
You must try it.
Did you like it?
Because it's one of those oddball things that the smell will put you down, put you off, but the flavor is like kind of interesting.
Okay, it's on my list. I'll try. In fact, we'll get together. We'll try durian together. How's that?
This Italian dish is traditionally made with arborio rice.
Oh, it's risotto.
There you go.
I was going to say polenta somehow.
I thought that was going to come out. Everyone, we're speaking to David Page, by the way, who's like this big macher in the food world.
Yeah, right.
And he's the creator of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. So that's why I'm going to test him here. I'm not going to give him the strongest.
And the new podcast debuting August 27th and then dropping twice a week on all major platforms, Culinary Characters Unlocked. Food for
Culinary
200.
Characters?
Culinary Characters Unlocked.
Will I ever make it as a guest on your show?
Absolutely.
Because I'm kind of a culinary character.
Absolutely.
I'm not a Nancy Silverton, but I did meet her and ask her for a job about 40 years ago.
How'd that go for you?
I'm doing this show.
But wait a second. You'll be on the podcast. You know that.
Okay, so this spice is derived from the crocus flower and is super duper expensive.
Saffron?
Yeah. Good for you.
That was a guess.
Well, okay, this type of cheese is known for its blue veins and very strong flavor.
Stilton. Or blue. Or Roquefort.
Okay, good. And you know what? You can make yourself a nice cream sauce utilizing blue cheese and heavy cream. Steer clear of milk products, but heavy cream is good if you're trying to stay low carb.
You can also make a tremendous dressing with it.
Yeah, but what kind of oils are you using these days? Are you steering clear of the industrial seed oils?
I'm using olive. I just interviewed a gentleman whose family has been in the olive oil business forever, and I'm looking for his name, and I'm Nate Bradley. They have an olive oil importation and distribution company in California. And he was very interesting in explaining that much of the myth about olive oil, smoke point and such, does not really apply to good olive oil. That you can easily cook that good extra virgin olive oil, not the crap that you buy that's been cut with canola that you don't know about, or it has gone rancid, sitting on the store shelf forever. But he says, yes, you can mix and match. You can have this olive oil for this and this olive oil for that. But he says, let's be practical. Find one really good olive oil you like and use it for everything. Then if you have a specialty need, like you have an infused oil to go with this, that's fine. But no, I'm pretty much an olive oil guy. Speaking of which, where's my sampler pack of Hawaiian food? Anyway, he sent me a sampler pack.
Spam is on the way, brother.
Oh, good. It's the best. Hey, I lived in Minnesota.
Right.
Boston, Minnesota. I think, especially with social media and everyone getting information that is often wrong everywhere, the trends in food health are absurd. This week it's this, next week it's that. I personally am convinced that 90% of the people who say they're gluten intolerant are not. But it's cool to have a problem, and to go to a restaurant and say, well, I need you to make the steak Diane, but with no beef and no mustard. Hello? You know,
It was funny when I was running the Hawaii food tours for all those years, when people would come on and say that they're gluten intolerant, I'd have a couple of thoughts. The first one was, why are you on a food tour?
right.
And the second one was, everything contains gluten these days. And that's used to be my position. Nowadays, when I have a bite of bread or a bagel or whatever, I will get the hives. There must be something in wheat flour that my body has an issue with.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Both bread and bagels, because they're very different processes and very different.
Right, but they're wheat flour, they're enriched, they basically have no nutritional value, but there's something about wheat flour, whether it's bleached or unbleached. So it happens, not every time. So that flies in the face of what a lot of allergists say, which is, if you're allergic to something, you're allergic to it every single time. But that's not the truth. It can be like a cumulative thing.
Yeah.
And the same thing, if I have a little bit too much gin over the course of a month or red wine, the same kind of thing will happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because as part of my healthier eating move, I don't drink a lot of alcohol anymore. Mm-hmm. The other night, there was some sort of special occasion. I had 2 short glasses of bourbon, good bourbon, Angel's Envy, and woke up the next morning with a hangover. And look, I'm an ex-journalist, and I drank my way around the world. I was a professional. It's fascinating to have lost the tolerance.
Right. Well, that's a function of age as much as anything else.
Yeah, it is probably. As I told my daughter the other day, hey, kid, I got maybe 15 years left, so make them cool.
Okay, back to food-related Jeopardy with David Page here. This taste sensation is often described as savory or meaty.
Umami.
Right. Good for you.
So far, the only one I've missed is 80s popular bullshit.
Right. We kind of need to keep you away from that.
Yeah. Like in 1983, I joined NBC, worked my ass off for 2 years, never had time for popular anything. And then I got sent overseas. So the 80s don't exist for me.
Oh, okay.
Except for some Elton John music, because I like Elton John.
Yeah, there was a lot of good music in the 80s, maybe not as much as the 70s, but yeah. This spice blend is commonly used in Indian food.
Curry.
And it's...
Okay, oh, no, masala.
Curry
I'm sorry.
powder. No, curry powder works. Okay. Actually, it's a 2-part answer, and they're both correct. You did good. Curry and masala. Do you eat Indian food much?
Not much, but I love it.
Do you make it at home? Do you buy spices, roast them, and grind them?
I have, but that's on the learn how to do it list.
Okay.
I don't know a whole lot about Indian food. And before I start ignorantly messing around, I want to take a little time and figure out what I need to know, which I may do in the course of some interviews on the podcast.
Right.
It's, again, people think of food as societally single. There's not one Indian cuisine. There are multiple Indian cuisines. There's not one. Thai is a good example. Everything we eat in America virtually is Southern Thai. Well, Southern Thai is extremely different than Northern Thai. You think of Southern Thai, you think of pad Thai. You think of one of those citrusy salads. Northern Thai food is very much about spice and meat and chicken wings. And I'm sure there are parts of Thailand I don't know about because there's got to be more than 2 cuisines in that country.
Well, it's a tiny country, but it has a lot of influences because of the bordering countries. Right.
I just interviewed, I'm looking for the name because it just escaped me, Christina Nguyen, who won the 2024 Midwestern Best Chef James Beard Award at her Southeast Asian fusion restaurant in Minneapolis. And her parents are from Vietnam. She was born and raised in the Midwest. And I said to her, I don't know beyond banh mi and pho, or as mispronounced, pho. I don't know a whole lot about Vietnamese cooking. I assume that there are various different regions, but beyond North and South, what are they? And she explained to me that, yes, There is a generalized kind of Hanoi region cuisine, which is north, and a Saigon region cuisine, which is south. But there's a mountainous region cuisine. There's a coastal cuisine in the Mekong Delta that will be different than the coastal cuisines elsewhere. It's that sort of pastiche that makes up virtually every food culture.
People don't realize Vietnamese food is probably one of the healthiest cuisines from that region of the world.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's so good. And of course, the French influence doesn't hurt.
No, the French influence doesn't hurt at all. I mean, the banh mi is because of the existence of the baguette.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Nancy Silverton because she's going to be, is it your first guest?
Followed soon after by Dan Barber and Drew Nieporent.
Wow. Oh, this is going to be nice. It's going to be available on all the major podcasts.
Every
networks.
platform or culinaricharactersunlocked.com. Even I cannot say it.
Will you be doing the YouTube thing with this?
We'll be on YouTube.
Okay,
we'll be
so
on Apple.
YouTube,
we'll be everywhere.
Everywhere. So you'll be everywhere. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
You will be unable to avoid me. I will become the bane of many foodies' existence.
As if you weren't already.
Well, good point. Excellent point.
Nancy Silverton is the co-founder of this Los Angeles bakery.
Yes, which started as part of Campanile. It actually opened before Campanile, but it was purchased as part of the initial facility. And that's where she is credited with introducing Americans to artisanal bread. Now, as she says, and this is a quote, "I didn't invent bread." And there were some other artisanal bread bakers in the country at that time, but not many. She really got the love of French-style bread launched in the United States. And it's fascinating because years earlier, she had studied in Paris at one point, and she describes getting on the back of a friend's motorbike. And he says, "I'm going to take you for the best bread in Paris." And I think the name of the bakery was Poulain, but A, I have a lousy French accent, and B, as I age, my memory is going, so I may have to double check that. But they drove across Paris, and she had the most incredible bread she'd ever had in her life. And then she came back to the States. She was in LA at the time, I think, maybe New York, and simply couldn't find that quality bread and said to herself, well, I guess I'll have to save this for France. And the more she thought about it, the more she got involved. She started making the bread herself. And it took off. And she was very quickly the winner of the the bakery had been open, I don't know, a year at most, when she won the award as best pastry chef in the country. And a good piece of bread, as I described at Zingerman's Deli in Michigan, a good piece of bread is something to revel in and to enjoy. Hell, even a piece of white bread under pork barbecue in the Carolinas has a taste, texture, and function that is necessary for the balance of that particular form of barbecue. Don't eat 20 pieces of bread. Don't eat bread every day. But if you're going to eat something, eat a good version of it.
Fair enough. I'll let you get away with that. But what I won't let you get away with is you've run afoul of the Jeopardy laws, because I need you to name the name of Nancy Silverton's bakery and in what year she won her James Beard Award.
It has completely escaped my mind. Now I can go.
Nancy, can you believe what's going on here?
Yeah,
you're going to have to come on my show.
I'm so impressed with her current operation, Osteria Mozza and Pizzeria Mozza, that I've simply blanked on the name of the bakery. And it was the initial year of the James Beard Awards. So if I mumble for a while, long enough to Google, I could screw you on this, but I'm not.
I know, but it's not going to happen.
I acknowledge my memory lapse. Answer the question for me.
La Brea Bakery.
La Brea Bakery, of course.
And 2014.
That was 2014.
Right.
Yeah.
And, she is famous for sourdough, though, even though.
Yeah, she is, which is why she didn't have a need to produce any during the pandemic. She'd been there. She is a terrific person, by the way. You know, she told me a great story about how she ended up as a chef. She was in college and she developed a crush on the guy who was cooking at, and I guess ran, the cafeteria in her dormitory. So she wanted to date him. So she asked him for a job cooking. And he said yes. And they dated briefly, and that didn't go anywhere. But it occurred to her as she was cooking from cookbooks. I mean, she had no training. As she was cooking for this guy, she looked around one day and said, you know, you can do this for a living.
You say that because she did not speak French, that she went to Le Cordon Bleu in London like I did because
Yes,
she didn't speak French? Yeah.
But then later, several years later, she went to France and survived on kitchen French.
Okay.
But her initial decision to go to London, but she also said what she did not know at the time was that there was the CIA in Hyde Park, New York. And
So how are you going to be able to pull off 2 shows per week?
damned if I know. No, I've already done 38 interviews.
Okay.
And I'll be doing a couple a week for quite a while.
Yeah.
Because I also want to be able to turn on a dime if something happens. I want to be able to deal with it.
You want to have some in the can.
Oh, I got a bunch in the can. I just want to be able to do this.
Right.
You know, this goes here, this goes there, this is timely. I noticed a piece about the White House chef who's just retired. I want to book her because I think that would be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading about the Driscoll's people. You know, the people who make the berries or who grow the berries?
Interesting. Yeah, I eat a lot of Driscoll berries.
Did you read recently that, you know, they employ a fleet of scientists and molecular biologists and so on to breed in the ultimate flavor so they can create the ultimate berry in all different realms: strawberry, blueberry, raspberry.
Well, that produce not just produce, everything needs to be grown for flavor.
Right.
That you need to grow things that are local, native to that climate and soil. And you need to grow them in a way that the replenishment of the soil is done by rotating or co-growing various crops that create the right chemical conditions for further rich growth.
If people want to eat veggies based on an ethical belief, I can't get on them. But if they think it's healthier, then they're all wrong. Have you ever seen someone who looks fit, who's
I'll go farther
vegan?
than that. It's easy to say that you're going to eat them from an ethical belief, then include the damage to the carbon footprint done by shipping you that vegetable, created by the plastic packaging it's in, as opposed to being stacked up at the farmer's market where you pull it out of a bin and put it in your own bag. It's like these I'll name a brand, Beyond Meat or Impossible Burgers. I still don't know what the carbon footprint of those is. They're heavily processed products,
right?
That don't necessarily. No one has proven to me that they're better for the earth than a farting cow.
No, they're not. They're not. And yeah, I don't think that is. It hasn't done very well. I mean, it's going away. I think that ultra high processed foods are a no-no and bad for your health and bad for the environment.
I'm not going to argue with you there.
Yeah.
Which is also not to say that I don't eat some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, convenience impacts all of us. And as much as I am an advocate for, damn it, just do some good, simple cooking. Take that chicken out of the fridge, put it in a metal pan, salt, pepper, garlic, and a little stock to keep it moist. Put it in the oven and come back in 45 minutes.
There you go.
As much as I'm an advocate of that, truth be told, there are days I don't have the inclination or time to do that.
Right.
And I pull a cauliflower crust keto pizza out of the freezer and eat it for dinner because it's fine for my diabetes treatment. And it took me 30 minutes.
Right.
Now, I'm sure, reading the back of that package, there are 8 million reasons why I shouldn't eat that pizza. I was
just going to go there.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, have you read that?
Let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Right.
And if I am aware of the horseshit factor of that pizza, and I choose knowingly to integrate it into my diet, rarely, but for a reason, that's fine. One of the things my endocrinologist has said to me in managing diabetes is, you got to cheat. You want a cannoli, have a cannoli. Don't have three. Don't have a cannoli every day. But look, there is an element of food, and I had to deal with this. Look, I used food as much as anyone when I was bored or as an emotional crutch. You have to get rid of that. You have to look past that. But there are times, food is a comfort factor.
Right.
And I'm not going to beat myself up for having had a double McDonald's hamburger. Now, if I have one every day, if I had a Big Mac and large fries and whatever the hell else they sell, bad move. But
definitely a bad move. And also a bad move just knowing, once you know what the ingredients are that they use just for the buns, which is the worst part of a McDonald's, the buns and the oils that they cook the food in, it's
it was
kind of like
not a
nuclear
healthy
crazy.
meal.
Yeah.
But I'll let myself have one every 6 months.
But I want to point out to people who are watching us right now that it's not about the calories or the number of carbs. In some cases, it's the ingredients that you're ingesting.
I agree with you completely. I have chosen in the maintenance stage after a significant weight loss and monitoring my blood sugar on a regular basis. I have chosen to allow myself a certain proportion of crap.
I've got my own kind of pretty drastic place as far as food goes, and that I disagree with most people when we talk about food and what's healthy and what's not. But I often allow for people who need to have a cheat meal every now and again and kind of scratch that itch. I think that's fine.
So far the numbers are good, so I'm okay.
Good.
And look, most important, let's be clear, the most important calorie reduction anyone can do is to cut back on drinking. Talk about wasted calories.
Right. Well, it depends.
Well, that's a good point. It may not be completely wasted, but it has a purpose.
They're more enjoyable calories, though, than bread or potatoes.
Well, no, but it depends.
Pasta.
Pardon me, I'm feeding the dog some treats. A good piece of bread, I mean, a real artisanal piece of bread, every now and then.
You used to do a show all about beer.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So this is kind of part of the Jeopardy scheme that we began the day with.
This one I'm not sure I'm up to. Let's see.
I think you'll be fine. So what is the beer equivalent of a sommelier?
Jesus, don't do that to me. Cicerone.
Right.
Thank you.
Most people do not
have any idea what that is. I had to get back into beer mode.
I know. Can you describe to our audience what a stout is?
Well, it is a heavy tasting beer, not necessarily higher in calories than what you might think of as a lighter beer, a heavier, peatier flavor, if you will.
You're talking about something like a milk stout, like a Michelin stout,
or
which
a
is sweet
stout,
and thick and no carbonation and no bitterness.
I had an incredible...
not a Guinness stout.
Well, no, I like Guinness. I mean, Guinness is actually, Guinness is low in calories. 12 ounces of Guinness is like 90 calories.
Yeah, but it's packed with carbs. I mean, whereas a glass of white wine has very few.
Okay, but white wine's higher in sugar? I don't know.
No.
I think it was their milk stout. It might have been their chocolate stout. And when they say things like chocolate, no, there's no real chocolate in a chocolate stout. It's basically the grain they used and how it was roasted that gets that kind of dark taste. In many respects, stout is my favorite beer. And it'll go with so many different things.
I fell in love with Michelin stout, which is more like soda than it is like
I don't know.
Americans think of as
where's
beer.
it from? Scotland?
It began originally at Whitbread Brewery in the UK,
yes.
but is now being brewed, I think, in the Caribbean. I'll tell you a funny beer story, and I wish that you were still doing that show because it's a good one. When people come to Hawaii and they look at the menu and they order and they want to speak as though they understand and know Hawaiian, that they'll look at the menu and they'll ask for, I'll have a pali'ali. And you look at them and go, pali'ali, and then you look at the menu, what they're reading, and it's pale ale.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, by the way, we're talking about maybe visiting Peru.
Uh-huh.
in the near future. And I love Peruvian ceviche, which is much different than Mexican.
In what way?
It's less cooked in citrus, and it has often some sharp spice, and it has a tomato base, and it's
Oh,
great.
like a cross between typical ceviche and gazpacho?
Not as thick, but yes. The
Oh,
point is, it's
that's
red.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I always thought that restaurants that used a lot of tomato in their products was kind of cheating. They weren't giving you the real deal.
Well, it depends on what the evolution of that product was. In Peru, it evolved. It's traditional to include tomatoes. Yes, any sauce, and tomatoes are a big one for this. Any sauce can hide a flaw. It may taste good, but it's the combination of flavors is simply an attempt to hide the fact that nothing in it is particularly wonderful.
Right, right. Yeah, there's so much now, though. It's not just that. It's just about everything in the marketplace. People
Yes.
try to make a buck off of you off of anything.
No, they're trying to make $2. If they sold
Oh,
something
yeah, right.
real and made a buck, that would be fine.
Right.
And
Yeah, yeah. And there's so much good stuff
yeah,
informationally to be able to get from what's going on in the food world. Okay, a few more questions, and then
okay.
I guess we can wrap it up. Is there anything I haven't asked you so far, though, that you need to chat about?
How I may maintain my remarkable good looks and youthful vigor?
Oh, you look like you've had Botox and no one knows it, and that
Absolutely.
you're svelte and strong, and you've got it all
Unbelievable,
going
isn't it?
on.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
No, conversing with you is always a pleasure because you know what
I
you're
enjoy it
talking
too.
about, and you ask provocative questions. Not provocative like, take your
Oh
shirt
no, I
off.
can go there if you want.
Oh, feel free. Well, hey, tell your
Okay,
story first.
because you tell me a story, and then I'll
Then
ask
you
you my
go there.
provocative question.
Okay. Um, there's a couple that I keep going back to because I love them. Greg and Carrie Arisman in
I
West
think they're
Lafayette,
your
Indiana.
only friends.
They're my only friends, yeah.
Okay.
Greg and Carrie Arisman in West Lafayette, Indiana. They own a burger joint. I had them on Diners. I have them in my book. Burger joint's like 100 years old. They bought it, I don't know, 30 something years ago. Anyway, the name of the place is the Triple X Family Restaurant. When they bought it, it was just the Triple X. And Greg says they changed the name because they kept getting phone calls asking, is the staff topless and when does the movie start?
Spoken by somebody who's visited his share of booths.
I have no idea what you're doing.
I'm sure you don't.
None,
Okay,
none
so
whatsoever.
which wine smells most like sex?
Well, I would say whichever wine you are licking off your partner.
Oh, good one. Good one. Okay. The answer is Pinot Noir.
Okay.
But, your response was perfect. It really
Thank you.
was.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, I mean, you dared it out of me and you just got it and it's going to go out there unedited.
Oh, damn.
So,
Actually, it could
David,
help. Yes.
I'm sure anything can help. What is your greatest superpower at this moment in time?
My greatest superpower? Gallops. I finally
Oh,
figured out how to get that good, crusty sear on scallops.
okay. So,
Um,
are we sous vide and then just browning them at the last moment?
I haven't tried that. No, I'm just,
Okay.
you know how you try stuff and you just stumble there?
Yeah.
I found that even just the liquid from a fat contributed moisture that steamed the scallop more than cooking it. I finally, after experimentation, got to the point where I start them with no fat in a nonstick pan, let the crust start to form, then I add the butter to the pan.
That's interesting. So,
Yeah,
you
and
don't need the butter, though, to create a brown
no, I need the butter for flavor.
surface for
I,
flavor,
I,
but you can add,
I,
add that after also.
people argue about whether or not you should turn a scallop over. I do
Right.
briefly, not to get a sear, but just to get the butter all over it.
Okay.
And I also season with salt, pepper, Old Bay, and lemon. And
Okay.
that is living in a place where the port the fishing port here brings in what I think are the best scallops on earth. And the second thing I learned, obviously, but you would know this, is you really got to bend over backwards to dry them out. They got to sit on a terry cloth towel or paper towel forever. I just had this conversation about barbecue with somebody, whether or not valid's the wrong word, but whether or not I am in favor of wrap and hold when a brisket comes off the smoker. And if I'm in favor of it, do I want tinfoil or butcher paper? I'm a butcher paper guy. I'm fine with that.
You can do both.
What's that?
You can do both.
You could do both.
Butcher paper, then foil.
Yeah. But the point is, I don't want to steam that meat. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll hold it in paper. And my teacher for this was Louis Miller's Barbecue in Taylor, Texas, and nobody does it better. So I'll take their word for it. They hold in butcher paper. Yeah. And that's fine.
Are you using internal probe thermometer when you're cooking your roast, your meats?
I am, and you know what? I have yet to find one I trust. It's unbelievable. Is that right? Yeah, okay. I'm having terrible luck. I bought one of the expensive ones that the cable comes out of the stove and it goes into the Humpty, and I'm still, temperatures are all over the place. Now, I suppose if I spent $500 and got, a super duper thermometer, I am still such an amateur cook. I'll never be a chef like you. I'm a cook. So I'm still a guy who cooks 4 steaks for 3 people, cuts into the fourth until I'm comfortable with what it looks like, and then that one gets used for steak salad tomorrow. Right. That's your baseline. That's how everyone thinks that David knows what he's doing, because he's got that 4th steak to play with. Yeah, but again, as a home cook, not a chef, I have my cheats. When I'm cooking something in the oven at a high temperature, I tend to put stock in the pan just to protect me from drying out. Now, if I was a chef, I wouldn't need to do that. And I'm sure for a number of reasons, the eventual dish would be better. But I know my weaknesses, and I know the cheats I have to employ to get what I want. So that's what I do. And that's what, it's not a competition. It's not a contest. Whatever you need to do to cook good food that makes you happy, you should do. I roasted chicken at 500. Most people would tell me that's insane. It works for me. Do you spatchcock? I don't. I've wanted to, but again... Oh, you have to, man. That's the only way to go. Well, ask Jonathan Waxman. But yes, to me, a roast chicken is a quick meal. A roast chicken is a simple meal. A roast chicken is no special techniques required. Run back here, salt, pepper, and get this cheat. You know that minced garlic in the jar that chefs turn their noses up at? Yeah. I use it on the skin of the chicken because of the liquid. It's garlic flavored liquid that I can suffuse the chicken with. And then I throw some vegetables around it and throw some stock in, put it in the oven, take it out in 30 or 40 minutes. I'm happy. That's a technique that works for me. And chicken skin has enough fat to cook itself into blissful oblivion. It doesn't need anything additional. But see, that's another example of stuff you're not supposed to eat. This whole skinless chicken breast thing. Oh, that would be all wrong. That's totally bad information. First of all, dark meat chicken is tastier than white meat chicken because it's got fat, and fat is flavor. Number 2, no, you shouldn't eat 40 yards of chicken skin. Well, if a piece of chicken skin is going to destroy you, then you got a problem. There's another thing I disagree with, but the whole spatchcocking method for turkey, especially, and chicken is the only way to really roast something properly. That way your dark meat and your white meat are going to cook at the same rate. It's going to be so much more delicious that way. Well, when you spatchcock, you take out all the bones, just take out kitchen shears, and you on either side of the backbone, and then you just split it and flatten it. And so you're cooking it flat. Nancy Silverton said it was in Italy that she had a spatchcock chicken that she then copied, and she said it became one of the signature items at Campanile. You started seeing a lot of chefs in my generation putting things under nuclear hot bricks, right? Yeah. So that's what it's supposed to do. I mean, you're supposed to get a lot of color, flavor, and texture when you're cooking something at a high heat that deserves a crust. Yeah, and look, I'll cheat if I have to. At the end, I'll turn the broiler on for a minute.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had a torch and you were going to go there.
Oh, that would be. I like that.
I've got a few little mini torches, and
Well, you know what?
it works perfectly.
I got a cigar lighter that would do this thing.
Okay, so when it comes to Chinese, would you prefer General Tso's or Kung Pao?
General Tso's, which is such it is a perfect example of the validity of evolved cuisines. The General Tso's chicken that we eat bears very little relationship to the General Tso's chicken that was invented in Taiwan. And the story of that, I'm sure you've read the book and or seen the documentary In Search of General Tso that was done by Jennifer A. Lee. She brought a picture of American General Tso's chicken to the chef in Taiwan who invented it, and he was horrified by it. It's spicier there, less gelatinous, less sweet.
But still battered and fried versus Kung Pao, which is not.
Yes, still battered and
so
fried.
It's similar to the fish tacos, but Chinese style.
Yeah, but it's more delicate. Right. And I think it's an extraordinary meal. Now, that is so high in sugar and calories and stuff that I don't go near it.
Oh, it's off our list.
Yeah, I don't go near it. But in terms of a perfect food item, aside from perfect bagels, lox, and cream cheese on an everything bagel, and when I say lox on an everything, it has to be smoked salmon because there's too much salt in belly. Anyway, aside from that, it may be the most perfect food ever invented.
I would agree. I would definitely agree on that. Yeah, that we had the bagels and the schmear and the lox and the whole bit the other day, so that was really good. That was my cheat for this half.
Well,
of the
here,
year.
Okay, and do you get high quality bagels and lox in Hawaii?
Well, the lox pretty good. The bagels not anywhere near the quality that you can get in the big cities.
You know what I would try if I didn't have access to the best bagels? Hold on 1 minute. On a podcast, dear, say hi to Matthew. My wife said hi.
Is that the attorney?
That's the attorney. So, who knows?
The thing is, unlike yourself and Nancy and people who really know their breads and bagels, I've never really been a bread or bagel guy. It's always just been the foundation for my world. It's just like the foundation of my home is just foundation. It's the rooms that live above the foundation that I'm more pleased with. So,
well, but here's one you won't get in Hawaii. Even better than a bagel is a bialy.
Oh, yeah.
My grandfather,
I remember big time.
My grandfather, who lived on the Lower East Side, used to take me. We'd walk to Kosar's, which has been reinvigorated and reinvented lately. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad because they now do bagels as well, and bagels and bialys are a very different animal. But the bialy, which the hole is only in the top half, and there's fried onions in that center hole, and it's thinner and less doughy than a bagel. It's not boiled. But it's
chewier than hell. Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Right, it's not as it's not like a bagel at all. It's definitely something people should try if they have access. I think bagels stole the thunder when it came to that kind of a product.
Bagels they just hit at the right time.
Yeah.
And they were the bagel did exist in Europe, so it was a little piece of home. It was a big deal in Poland.
Give us one last shot here, parting shot on your show. What's it called? When's it going to air? Where's it going to be? And what's next?
Okay. The show is Culinary Characters Unlocked. It is on, or will be on, every major podcast platform. It will be on YouTube. And it's me chatting with fascinating people in the world of food. Some of them are legends, as we've discussed today. Some of them are people who will be legends. And some of them you'll never know, aside from this podcast, outside of the city or town they're in. I'm talking to some fascinating local restaurateurs with a deep passion for what they're doing, who are providing great food for the folks down the street who've been enjoying their offerings forever. And I think of the show as after dinner in Europe. The food is done and the espresso has now come out and they're not rushing you. They're not trying to turn the table. And you can just sit there and have a great conversation. And that's what I'm doing with all of these guests.
That's what it's all about. Food is about the schmooze. It's about the company. It's about the face-to-face.
Yes, it is.
thing that just popped into my mind is back when Nancy and Mark, her former husband,
Yes.
were running whatever restaurant it was. Was it La Brea
Campanile.
Bakery? Way back when.
Yeah.
And Wolfgang Puck had started Spago. I had helped open up Chin Chin in Sunset Plaza with
I didn't know
my
that.
parents' attorney, Mandel. And so we served dim sum and then some, upscale dim sum in Sunset Plaza. And Wolfgang used to come into our shop to pick up exotic Chinese ingredients for his use at
my
Spago.
gosh.
So that was pretty wild.
That's pretty.
Everything kind of comes together.
Nancy told me when her husband at the time wanted to go to Spago as the main chef. I don't think they had they opened Campanile? Anyway, they wanted to go, he wanted to go to Spago to be the main chef. She wasn't really thrilled about going. She was already doing well. Was it Spago? I think it was Spago. Anyway, she didn't want to go. So her husband got her mother to convince her to take the gig so he could go too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a pretty interesting time in the whole food world.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah.
And, you know, she had some wonderful people working for her who went on to big careers of their own. It was a great incubation period in American cooking.
Last question, food related, of course, but also entertainment related. Have you been watching The Bear?
Yes, I loved
How far
season 1
into
and
it are
2.
you?
I can't stand season 3. Season
How
3.
far into season 3 are you?
I watched the whole thing. It's nothing but amusement.
Okay.
It's a self-congratulatory exercise in pointing out that we became a cultural phenomenon.
Do you have any projections as to what's going to happen in season 4? I mean, because you see what they've done as far as setup.
Yeah, but see, what they've done is season 4 was shot at the same time as season 3. So it's going to be, I assume, more of these profiles. I mean, each episode was like, okay, now we'll focus on so-and-so, and there's no through line. And I'm disappointed, you know, because it's based on Mr. Beef, which was one of my favorite restaurants when I worked in Chicago.
Right.
You know, don't destroy the legacy of Mr. Beef. But are you watching it? Do you like it?
Loved 1 and 2 especially. Season 3 has been a little bit of a letdown, but the profiles have been interesting, the way that they profiled the characters. And so I'm looking at season 4 and perhaps 5, everyone's shooting for 5. Is that something will happen with the ownership or the existence of the restaurant?
Well, I hope so. But see, there's one great flaw in the story now is he's decided he's going to get his Michelin star. And he's going to get his Michelin star by changing the menu every night. Well, several people have pointed out to me, you'll never get a Michelin star that way because one of their biggest criteria is consistency.
Right, word of mouth.
And if they can't have the same dish the next time they're there, it doesn't. Now, of course, you couldn't really change the whole menu every night anyway. It would be impossible. But and certainly impossible to do well. But a fundamental premise of the season is horseshit. Aside from that, I loved it.
Yeah, I think some of the performances have been amazing, but
Yes,
definitely
those are
season 3 has
highly
been down slow.
talented actors.
I'm curious to see what they'll do.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by the writing.
Okay, for season 3, but not in
I
1
loved
and 2.
1 and 2. I
Right.
absolutely adored 1 and 2. And yeah, there's a lot of leaps of creative faith there. No one's going to turn that stand into a fine dining restaurant, but I'll take that leap. I'll go with you. I'll suspend my disbelief.
One of the funny things on that show, you'll see he's creating plates, for his artistic inspiration. And he throws the plate with the food on it away into the trash. And I'm thinking, I'd never do that.
No, come on. The best part of shooting diners was eating the plates you shot after you shot them. And occasionally someone would eat a plate before you were done shooting it. You'd have to get another plate. But yes, I.
Speaking of diners, do you have any tattoos?
Do I have tattoos?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
That is.
Wow! Look at that.
That is the logo of Faber College from Animal House.
When did you get that?
Like my daughter and I got it together in New York because we both love Animal House. That's a television set.
Uh-huh. Look at this. David Page is exposing himself.
Yeah. My daughter and I both have this one. She's a writer and so am I.
Okay.
And this one's a TV camera.
There you go.
And I have one more on my hip I will not show you, but if you've watched the end of any of the episodes I produced at Diners, you see a radio tower logo for my production company with thunderbolts coming out of it. That comes from a tattoo on my right hip.
No kidding.
No kidding.
It's interesting to me that they say approximately 40% of the U.S. population have tattoos.
Really?
Yeah. Does that blow your mind?
I got my first one, that radio tower.
Yeah.
My wife and I were at a bed and breakfast in Minnesota celebrating, I don't know, like our 20th anniversary or 15th or something. We had a couple of bottles of wine in the room and I was feeling it. We went walking down the street. We walked past a tattoo parlor. I said, hey, maybe I'll get a tattoo. And she said to me, put up or shut up. You've been saying that for years. So I went in and got a tattoo.
Oh, wow.
The radio tower on my hip. Yeah.
She watched you do this.
It was great.
Oh,
no, but
funny.
then see, it was fun. It was fun. What I need to do, I need to connect the TV and the camera with a cable behind my back, but I haven't done that yet.
Right. Yeah, they can do that with AI now. So,
I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Really great chatting with you
again. You didn't expect the skin show, did you?
I didn't really. I had no idea that number one, that you would have any, and then number two, that you would show me them.
I didn't show you my hip.
So you're the first guest who's returned for a second time on my show. You're the first guest who's actually exposed parts of their body that's previously covered.
There you go. Next time I'll do it topless. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. We'll hold you to that one.
Okay, it's a deal.
I don't know. How am I going to get 2 hours worth of show edited down? Do I even need to? I mean, we only have 4 subscribers anyway. So maybe we just keep it whole.
Yeah, what the hell?
Just let it go. It's like long form.
It's extremely long. It's marathon form.
Yeah. Okay, my friend. It was really good having you on. Thank you for visiting me here at 50 Tastes of Grey, David. You've been a lot of fun.
Matthew, always a pleasure. And, I'm glad we've become friends. So
yeah, me too. After our last show, you said I was your best friend, but then I didn't hear from you for a while, and I take everything personally.
I texted you in a week.
A week? You know what a week is?
I was recovering from the euphoria of having talked with you.
Oh, the afterglow was that much.
I had a cigarette, and then I texted.
Very good, brother. We'll talk real soon.
Thanks, Matthew. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Aloha.
You're terrific. Thanks so much. And by the way, your episode comes up.
Move your mic back. I can hardly hear you.
Your episode comes up soon. I will warn you.
Oh, was I on your show already?
Yeah.
I was?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You were
talk
on
about losing my memory.
There's 37, 15, 29 of you ready for export.
Well, I just don't even remember that.
Yeah, so it'll look like you asked me, and then I said yes. Look at that.
Wow.